Please don't forget the money, man.
All my blessings, 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 all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny. Daily counting every single one. I'm seeing plenty. Level up and watch that beat it turn into a...
Welcome to the Michael Welch Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I am fresh off a hot little vacation away from Michigan down in Florida. Anna Marie Isle, a little time in Universal Studio, kind of hitting a couple places there. Gone for a full week. Very much enjoyed it. We had a lot going on in the sports world there as far as hoops and harm. Football and basketball, the two sports, of course, that I cover here and love to enjoy. We have a World Cup winner, too. Wish I could tell you more about that, but unfortunately that is not something that particularly piques my interest, if you can believe that. First off, I'm very sad that Mike Leach has passed, head coach of the Mississippi State Bulldogs there, and he's been a number of different places, including Texas Tech. He had a little incident there that a lot of folks remember with a player in a closet, apparently. Just worth noting, that's why he was booted out of that position. But he was known for his great sound clips, just being a smart guy, reinventing the offense that he did, the kind of passing offense. There's a lot of different literature about it that's very fascinating, and how he kind of built his offense off a couple different pieces of other historical figures in the game, and he just reinvented it for the modern day kind of college game and where he's at and where he first started at Cal Poly way back in the late 80s. So very saddened to hear him missed, and just to hear that he's gone, and to see all the support and memories of him in the college football world. In the college basketball world, we had Chris Beard in a dispute with his wife, and strangulation was involved, and he's suspended from the team and might be gone from college basketball forever. Just a horrible real life incident there, and just a horrible on a micro level college basketball coach. A great mind lost possibly there. Of course, lots of details about that possibly forthcoming. Just a crazy thing to come out, and two things to happen in back-to-back days. It was like Tuesday, Wednesday, or something like that, to have those two incidents come out, to lose a great coach in death, and to lose another, have another gentleman seem to act out of character like that. So just crazy stuff to wake up to on vacation, walk out into nice weather, and have crazy things happening in the sports world. The college transfer portal has, of course, been going nuts. It's our second full year, but probably the first full year. The kids are starting to really take notice of the freedom of movement that they have and what they can do. JT Daniels is on his fourth school in 4 years. The former male high school Gatorade Player of the Year, went to Georgia, USC, West Virginia last year. He's now going to Rice. Can't even list everyone. 1,300 kids, over 1,300 male football players in the transfer portal, at least as far as college football is concerned, which is something like 10% of all potential Division I college football athletes, when you take into account scholarship players, and a cap of 105 players, I believe, on each roster, something like that. So just a crazy number in the transfer portal, and just stuff going on all over the place. I also tried to monitor that. College basketball has had a lot of switching at the top. Last week we had 5 games between 2 top 25 teams, including 2 games between 2 top 10 teams, with all kinds of crazy results. And we haven't even hit conference play yet as far as the NCAA men's basketball is concerned. A couple games here and there, but not the full-blown deal yet until after New Year's here. So that is a very interesting field to touch on. Keep an eye on that. The NFL season is winding down. The NBA season is heating up. So just a lot of different pieces to try and keep eyes on moving forward. And a lot of things I'm trying to gather coming back from vacation here. So bear with me. Today, we're going to talk Christmas this weekend. We're tackling Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Kind of going into that, not just Saturday, Sunday, but the stretch over that period as well. So kind of what games you're watching for. College stuff is a little light. Pro stuff is heavy, obviously falling on a Sunday is Christmas, and the NBA is all the time. And the showcase used to be on Christmas Day, while Thanksgiving was for the NFL, but the NFL is invading a bit this year. So let's walk through the games here, touch on the one college basketball tournament going on, and a few of the other pieces, and what you're going to be trying to put your eyes on as you're doing your festivities as far as the games are concerned for this Christmas weekend. So your Friday, December 23rd, opens up at 3 o'clock with the Louisiana and Houston game in the Independence Bowl. The Houston Cougars, of course, suffering a little bit of a disappointing season. They are 7-5 at this current point. Louisiana 6-6, the first year post Billy Napier after moving on to Florida. This game, of course, on ESPN, as most of the bowl games are. The Cougars are still favored by a full touchdown, I believe. That's what the original spread was. The over-under is 57 points. I talked a lot about these bowl games already in the bowl podcast, but Houston should be as the spread indicates, the overwhelming favorite here. Clayton Tune had 37 touchdown passes on the year for the Cougars, 67% completion percentage, 3,800 yards. Still a very difficult season for that squad. They even lost the end of the year game, the last game of the year against Tulsa, 37-30. So it wasn't even a great way to wrap up the season. Louisiana, one of the few teams I did not watch this year, but just a team that has not had the pedigree since Billy left there. So Houston, again, expected to win, but this could be a closer game with Houston not quite being as strong as expected this year. It's supposed to be one of the better offenses in the country, and although they put up some points, including the high-flying 77-63 game against SMU that they won on the road there, this is just a little bit of a less interesting bowl game, but certainly 3 o'clock on Friday to kind of start the sports weekend off. The 6:30 Gasparilla Bowl is also on ESPN. That's the back end of the doubleheader. Wake Forest is 7-5. They're playing Missouri, who is 6-6. Unfortunately, Mizzou has had a lot of people enter the transfer portal or opt out. This team kind of struggled to make a bowl game at all, but played a lot of close games, including Georgia, which was a victory. It would have been a nice feather in the cap, obviously. But with a short-handed defense, they're going to be playing, of course, Sam Hartman and this Wake Forest team, which completely petered out later into the season. Sam Hartman might not even be in Wake Forest at this school next year. He might enter the transfer portal. Again, he was part of that 8-turnover game against Louisville in the back half of the season. Just all kinds of problems there. The defense hasn't been right in several years. Wake is still favored by a point at this time, 58.5 point over-under. We could see more points in this game with neither defense. Missouri defense was certainly better earlier in the year, particularly at stopping the run, but with a lot of guys out, we could just see a lot of points all over the place. With a better quarterback on Wake Forest's side and their inability to stop anything, regardless of who's playing on the offensive side for Missouri, they should be able to stay involved in this football game and keep it interesting. But two kind of ho-hum games there for this Friday. Now, 7 o'clock, we do have the beginning of a doubleheader on the Big Ten Network as far as college basketball is concerned. Again, the college slate a little light here on Christmas weekend as opposed to Thanksgiving, when we have a lot of games and tournaments going on earlier in the season. Christmas a little light, heavier on the pro sports. But number 18, Indiana, is 8-3. They're hosting Kennesaw State. I did not say that right at all. That's all right. We're working on pronunciation here. They are 7-4. Again, Big Ten Network. The Hoosiers are 16th per KenPom's rating, so he has them a little bit higher. KSU is 218th. Indiana has lost 2 games in a row to Arizona by 14 and Kansas by 22, both top 10 teams. They should have beat Elon by the time this pod is up. They're still a good team in adjusted efficiency on offense and defense, and a really good team in effective field goal percentage on offense and defense as well. Just a great team on both ends of the spectrum here, both ways. They have top 30 wins against Xavier and North Carolina, so it's not like they have an empty resume. They have another win that falls in the top 100 against Nebraska. And although it's hard to see a true national champion emerging from the Big Ten, although it's really a hodgepodge in the national picture as far as favorite title contenders, with UConn all of a sudden kind of making its way to the top there, and Purdue sitting at number 1, although a lot of metrics don't necessarily say that they're going to win the tournament, particularly with a young group of guards. That doesn't usually favor a team trying to win a national championship, but Indiana could certainly be in the hunt. So if you want to catch a peek, 7 o'clock, Big Ten Network. On the back end, at 9 o'clock, is number 17 Wisconsin, who's 9-2. They're hosting Grambling, who's 6-5. Grambling 236 per KenPom. Wisconsin's lower, 26 per Ken Pomeroy's rankings there. They've won 4 straight, including 3 games against top 30 teams. Marquette by 3 in overtime, Maryland by 5, Iowa by 3 in overtime. KenPom has Wisconsin projected to finish 20-11 in the season overall, which means they'd go 11-9 down their remaining schedule. And they have Grambling, Western Michigan, and Minnesota coming up next, 3 projected wins. So they are projected to have a winning record in Big Ten play, but not really be dogs in the race for the final picture. So they may not hang on to that 17th ranking, but they still have a soft section in the schedule here. They don't have a lot of big metrics, particularly on the offensive end. They may hang on. I think KenPom has been finishing inside the top 30. But again, the Badgers are one of 8 teams in the Big Ten that looks pretty solid right now, playing another cupcake team more or less, and it's kind of a light slate here on Friday. Now, the bigger college basketball event is the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, or the HADHC, if you will. It's back-to-back-to-back, 7, 10, midnight are the slated times right now. It does begin on Thursday. It runs Friday and Sunday, I believe. I have it here. But the participants are George Washington, who's 212th in KenPom, Hawaii, who's 138, Ionia, who's 61. This team's actually 7-3. They have a win over St. Louis, which is a top 100 win. Top 51, I believe, at this particular point. Decent squad there, coached by Patino. Pepperdine, they're 144th per KenPom. They're not very good, but they do have a pro prospect in Maxwell Lewis, averaging over 17 points per game. He's shooting 62% from 2, 58% from 3. Just a good score there. They may have some other guys that are interesting from the professional level, which is just weird considering they play in the WCC, the West Coast Conference that doesn't get a lot of recognition. That's where Gonzaga plays, BYU, St. Mary's, but Pepperdine there. Again, not a good team in a totality, but it has at least one very strong NBA prospect. Seattle's 142nd per KenPom. SMU, who's 185th. They're one of 2 teams with a losing record, along with Washington State, but they do have the most games played so far against top 100 teams. They're 0-5 against solid teams. Washington is 60th per KenPom. They probably have the best chance to win this classic. 0-5 against top 100 teams as well. The only teams they've beaten are ranked 200th or below, or worse, in KenPom's poll. And Utah State, who's ranked 54th, they are 9-1. They have the best record out of any participant in the field. They're probably the other kind of co-favorite there to win. They have 2 wins over top 100 teams, but they just lost to number 238, according to KenPom, Weber State. So do with that information as you will. That's their only loss of the year so far. So no big name teams, no highly ranked teams or ranked teams at all, or teams that may be in the rankings, period. But that's kind of the tournament that's going to be going on through this Christmas weekend with Utah and Washington State, and possibly Pepperdine with Maxwell Lewis being some of the notables, and Patino on the sideline for Ionia keeps things interesting. So a couple teams in the mix there of at least a couple teams of close competitive level. So you're not going to see, hopefully, a ton of outlandish blowouts. And of course, the matchups will change as you proceed into Friday, the slate here, and further into the weekend as well. 28 NBA teams will be playing on Friday. Two of them will be on national television, relatively speaking, because the 7:30 Bucks Nets game is on NBA TV. The Bucks are 22-9, one of the best teams in the league. The Nets are 20-12, and finally rounding into shape a bit here. Defense a bit better. Kevin Durant is looking like he could contend for the MVP, although there's several dogs in that race right now, of course. Durant is averaging 30.1 points per game, 6.6 rebounds per game, over 5 assists. He's up there in league leaders as far as points per game. Embiid actually leads. Giannis is 31.6 points, 11.2 rebounds, 5 assists. He's healthy, should be on the other side. Chris Middleton came back for a few games for the past couple weeks. He missed a good chunk. He missed the entire chunk to start the season. He's had some knee soreness and been on the injury reports. I don't know if he'll be playing on Friday or on Sunday on Christmas. That'd be nice if he would be. If not, at least this is still a good, intriguing matchup between the Nets and the Bucks here on Friday at 7:30. The other game is going to be on ESPN. They just plugged into that late night slate as opposed to having a double header. But it's at 10 o'clock. The Grizzlies at 19-11 right now, and the Suns, they're playing there in Phoenix at 19-13. Of course, all the reports coming out of more issues with that organization. It hasn't really affected the on-the-court play, although there's been a number of issues, including just recently with DeAndre Ayton yelling at Monty Williams and some conflict on the sidelines against the Wizards just recently. Chris Paul took a while to get started the other night. Booker's got problems with his knee. We don't know if he'll be playing either game heading into this weekend. Cam Johnson, of course, has had the torn meniscus, and Cameron Payne has had a foot issue, but this has still been like a good basketball team. They're still enjoyable to watch from a viewing perspective, of course. The Grizzlies are actually 6-8 on the road away from home, but they've had a mix of injuries as well. Desmond Bane has missed 17 straight games. They're coming off losses to both the Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. There's some nights where they just kind of chill a little bit. Not that all teams don't have that issue, but the Grizzlies in particular don't seem to really mind taking nights off here and there. Still a young team. Triple J's, Jaren Jackson Jr. Of course, his problems have been fouls, staying on the court, and injury issues. He's currently healthy. He's in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. He looks excellent. He's averaging, almost 4 blocks per game. It's been a few years since we've had someone put up those numbers with as few minutes as he's playing. So it'd be great to see some full capacity Grizzly power here, despite the numerous injuries. Hopefully Booker will play at least on later in the weekend, if not on Friday night here. Desmond Bane, probably not, and some other guys out, but Aiden will be nice. Chris Paul, Ja Morant, Triple J's. If we get at least some of the pieces in here, it should be a good game in Phoenix at 10 o'clock on ESPN on Friday night. Saturday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. This is going to be the bulk of your NFL action this week. We have one bowl game. We have no college basketball. So let's hit our 1 o'clockers. That'll be happening first on your slate. Of course, a lot of this regional action or red zone as you're watching it. Big deal to see NFL Ticket, by the way, go to YouTube via Google acquisition, Google owning YouTube TV, of course. So it will open it up to pretty much everybody now. You don't have to have DirecTV to get that NFL Sunday Ticket. A lot of people don't seem to know exactly what that is. You can watch any football game in its entirety. Nothing is blocked out unless it happens to be a regional game. I'm not sure about that, which means the Detroit Lions in my Michigan State would be blocked out. So I'm not particularly sure about that piece. You might have to watch that in your normal television. But similar to NBA League Pass, where you can subscribe to that and watch any out-of-market, nationally broadcast game. So anything that's not on TNT in that case, or ESPN, and that isn't a Detroit Pistons game, I can watch any other game that I want that I normally would not have access to. Much like the NFL right now, if you do not have DirecTV in the NFL Sunday Ticket, that's only available through that method. You are watching Red Zone if you are able to subscribe to that package. in a lot of places, which only allows you to see red zone trips or whatever that cuts to, or the games that are happening nationally or in your market. But if you wanted to watch Jaguars and Saints, that's only being broadcast in those two particular markets, then you have the ability to do that with NFL Sunday Ticket. It's not partial games. It's not games after the fact, which is another separate NFL package. It is any game that you want to watch in its entirety, like flipping to another channel. So when the 1 o'clock slot opens up, if there's 16 games between 32 teams. There we go. Getting the numbers right here. If in the 1 o'clock slot, there's 8 different games going on, you have the ability to go to any 8 of those games in their full entirety. So that is just a completely different world, and taking it off of DirecTV and being able to take it off that and add it to the YouTube TV, which will certainly jack up that price horrifically, or possibly make it an add-on. We'll open it up to a lot of people if they wish to subscribe to YouTube TV to add that feature. It will open it up to a lot of different people who'd rather see entire games rather than just NFL Red Zone. It opens up a lot of different aspects of game watching. And that will begin with next season, so I would expect us to have more news either spring or summer of next year, possibly earlier than that, as they get that finalized and the plan set up YouTube there through YouTube television. Okay, but anyways, December 24th, your 1 o'clock slot. As we get to a lot of these teams that know they're going into the playoffs, kind of have a comfortable slot there with 3 games to go, and teams which are kind of being eliminated. We have injuries compiling, obviously, but at this point, it's kind of, it makes you wonder why we added another week to the NFL season. We kind of know who's going to be in. We kind of know who's going to be out. We do have a thick middle group of teams, but we're going to see teams start to kind of peter out as they're falling out of the playoffs. And we're going to have a few at the very top who know they're competing for the 1 seed, kind of pushing for that. But otherwise, you're going to have kind of tiers of play and, teams that kind of fall in that, like the Bears that are basically eliminated. So let's start there. The Bears are 3-11 hosting the Bills, who are 11-3. This is a perfect example. It's going to be one of your CBS games. Again, if you're watching Red Zone will splice over to this game. And, if you're in Chicago or in Buffalo, you'd be able to watch this in your regional areas. But for example, the new package, which would go into place through YouTube TV with the NFL Sunday Ticket, you'd be able to watch this game in its entirety, regardless of where you are. So that's an example of what I was talking about previously. But as far as this Saturday is concerned, Bills are going to be in the playoffs and the Bears are not. That's already decided. The Bills can still play for number 1 seed, so it's not like they're not playing for anything, but the Bears might start to shut stuff down. So this is a perfect example of one team carrying and one team not really giving a damn at all. Bears have lost 7 straight. Bills have won 5. This could be the first really big snow game of the year. Last week, the snow did hold off a little bit in Buffalo until the game-winning field goal was kicked and the Bills survived there. You did see, of course, the viral clip of the entire team brushing away snow. So that the kicker there, Basson, name's eluding me at the moment, could kick the game-winning kick there. But for the most part, during the game, there was not a lot of snow. That doesn't mean we can't see an upset here. The line is currently Buffalo by 9 with a 40-point over-under, and it's going to be a real mess. It's going to be in the single digits. We're going to have a lot of snow in this game thanks to the storms going around. So it's going to be one of the ones on that docket. But to have Chicago win, much like they won at the beginning of the year in that weird rain torrent over the 49ers, it would just be a weird occurrence for them to manage to pull off this game. And Justin Fields, if he continues to be banged up, might sit for a couple of games here towards the end of the year. But that's in the 1 o'clock slot. The Browns are 6-8 hosting the Saints, who are 5-9. Also a CBS game. The line is 2.5. Cleveland over under 32. It's the lowest over under in a decade. Both teams aren't officially out of the playoffs, but they're on life support, so they're kind of in this middling group that's playing for something, but also the season's going to be over real quick. The Browns won over the Ravens and QB2 Tyler Huntley, but neither quarterbacks played well in last week's game. Deshaun Watson is completing 61% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks through his first 3 games. So that's how last week went for that team. The crappy Saints can still win the NFC South because the division is horrific. Tampa is 6-8. Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta are all 5-9. But New Orleans is 2 games back in the division with only the Panthers left to play. So they're mathematically not quite out of it yet, but a loss for either team should just about push them out depending on results here. The last 10 games for the Saints: win, loss, loss, win, loss, loss, win, loss, loss, win. So the Browns at home look like a good bet here. But again, freezing cold and lots of snow, and that's why the 32 over-under is present here. Texans 1-12-1. They're playing at the Titans, who are 7-7, another CBS game. It was 5 Tennessee's way, 37-point over-under. This might have moved. A number of things have happened. Texans are eliminated from playoffs. Shocking, of course. Coming into the season, you wouldn't be surprised at the record, but after a 1-3-1 start, you would have thought that maybe they could have won a few more than what they have. They had 2 one-score losses in their first group and had a little potential, but things have just not looked good. They played the Cowboys and Chiefs within a score, within a possession, the past couple weeks in losses, but they've lost by double digits in 5 of 9 in this last losing streak. Titans are hanging on to the AFC South lead just ahead of the Jags. They've lost 4 straight. Ryan Tannehill's out, might be out for the season. 5-6 other guys were officially ruled out for this game so far. So we'll get to see some more Malik Willis, which I'm happy to observe. I liked him at Liberty, and I like to see if he could be successful here with the Titans. Seattle, 7-7. They're heading on the road to Kansas City. The Chiefs are 11-3. This is a Fox game. Kansas City, 9.5-point favorites, 48.5 over-under. Should see some more points in this one. Geno Smith, 10-year pro, first Pro Bowl appearance. Great job for him this season. Kansas City coming off a 3-game road trip where they kind of screwed around a bit. They lost to Cincy to begin with there. They beat Denver by 6. Of course, that's a tough place to play. Then they beat the Texans by 6 last week. So coming home against the shoddy defense of the Seattle Seahawks here might be just what they need to get the juices going. Seahawks, of course, playing for a playoff spot. They are currently in 8th place, sitting just outside the playoffs in the NFC picture there. I was watching their Thursday night game against San Francisco last week on vacation at the NBC Sports Grill and Bar there, so I did get to catch part of that in much warmer weather than I'm in right now. But they're going to struggle a little bit in Kansas City, although this team can put up points, so this makes it one of the more interesting games on the slate, despite the high favoritism towards Kansas City. The Giants are 8-5-1, playing at the Vikings, who are 11-3, another Fox game. Minnesota, 3.5-point favorites, 48-point over-under, a dome game. That's no fun. No fun out of the snow there. Vikings obviously overcame the biggest deficit in NFL history last week against the Colts. I'm not sure if that's more indicative of the Vikings' unwillingness to die and go away or the Colts' complete incompetence. But they've got a Giants team that's won their first game in over a month against Washington last week on some egregious non-pass interference calls. It was explained in the broadcast that as the defender was sitting on Curtis Samuel's back at the end of the game, he made a decent play in not hindering his arm movements as he went up to try and make the catch. And it was a decent no call, kind of a 50-50 shot. But, he was also sitting on top of Curtis Samuel. So it's hard to jump up and extend your arm to grab a potentially game-tying touchdown pass when you can't even get airborne because you're getting straddled. So I think we kind of missed the wrong part of that. I didn't catch that in its entirety there. Nevertheless, the Giants, who have been struggling, managed to get a good win there. And now they will have to play a Vikings team, which is starting to look more and more like a team that can win the NFC and possibly make the Super Bowl, with the entire conference there really struggling. So a lot on the line there. 2 teams which could be in the playoffs. Vikings will be in there. Giants are question mark. They need a big win they still have room to fall backwards. So this is another game that's kind of high stakes here in the 1 o'clock time slot, and a lot going on for just the Giants in general. Whether they make the playoffs or not, there's a lot of questions coming this offseason about Daniel Jones. They declined his 5th-year rookie option, so he's just free balling it next year. Are they going to sign him and bring him back? Put him on a franchise tag? That would be ridiculously expensive. Or re-signing him to a new contract? That's a big deal, big decision to be made at the most important position. What are they going to do with other offensive pieces? Because as a whole, that whole side of the ball is going to have question marks, and just a lot heading into the offseason, set by the high first half of the season, really. And the success that they had moving to this 8 wins early, and now struggling down the stretch, and just questions all over the place and what the future is going to look like moving forward, regardless of how this year ends. CBS will also have Patriots at 7-7 hosting the Bengals at 10-4. Cincy 3.5-point favorites, 41.5-point over/under. This should be on the list of decent games, but the Pats seem to continue to go backwards here and continue this non-Belichick type trend here. They were going backward quite literally last year in a lateral sense, and one of the craziest endings in a loss for a game that was tied and was really going to go to overtime. Of course, the crazy lateral against the Raiders, a couple passes gone astray, and it was intercepted ultimately by Chandler Jones, who ran it in for a touchdown. And it's just wild. If you've seen it, of course you know, and if you haven't, you need to go find it here. No sense in describing the whole thing here. The Bengals have won 6 straight and look capable of making another Super Bowl run after a rocky start. Only Kansas City in that stretch really looks like a team that's going to be in the playoffs. So you can argue they didn't beat the best competition, but still a win's a win in this league. And 3 of the games were on the road, picking up road wins there. And the last 2 weeks they've comfortably won, beating their rival, of course, in the Cleveland Browns, and coming back in the second half against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week and outscoring them 31-6 in that second frame, and winning there. They could splatter the Pats, quite frankly, who have lost 3 of 4, but this is another chilly game outdoors. There's storms still running through this area, I believe, so that could potentially be a factor. So a game with stakes in it, unlike a few in this 1 o'clock slot, but could potentially get out of hand. It'd be a big upset if the Patriots did win. The Lions are 7-7. They're playing in Carolina. Panthers are 5-9 on Fox. This should be one of the better weather games. Detroit's 2.5-point favorites on the road with a 44-point over/under. The Lions are turning into must-watch television, right? Like 0 of these guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame. It's going to be one of these years where you look back and you say, hey, this was just a really good Lion team in its totality and what they're able to kind of put together here, especially if they do make the playoffs. The Panthers won a couple games before losing at home last week to Pittsburgh, but they've been in this crappy NFC South, and they can somehow still make the playoffs, as I ran through earlier. Lions have won 6 of 7. That's widely publicized in all the league news now. At Panthers, home against the Bears, and at the Packers are still left on the schedule. Still winnable games, very winnable games. They have to be all fired up. I certainly am. I bet them to win the NFC North, which is a little bit of a long shot now, but still not entirely out of the question with 3 games to go. How wild is that? Jared Goff seems to be the quarterback moving into next season as it becomes more and more difficult to draft good young talent there, and I think that's the way to do it. Panthers have a good run defense there. Sam Darnold is not a complete throwaway. It's harsh to say that, but a lot of quarterbacks playing, especially backup quarterbacks, as we extend the season and guys continue to get injured. And although he's looking like a career backup player at this point, he seems capable of getting that team around. But the Lions here on the road favored, and they should be. Falcons are 5-9. They're playing in Baltimore. The Ravens are 9-5, and a wimpy 9-5 at this point. This is a Fox game. Baltimore 7.5-point favorites, 37.5-point over/under on this game. The Falcons have 7 one-score losses this year. That's horrific. Desmond Ridder will get his second start after doing very little in his debut last week. No turnovers, but less than 100 yards passing. Can scramble around a little bit, but this is just not a good football team right now. The rookie out of BYU at running back, Tyler Elger, something like that. I always want to see LG, but that's not right. Just a word correlation thing for me. So it's going to be a tough go here. They had a tough road game in New Orleans last week, a 3-point loss. That's a tough way to get your start. And all the news in Baltimore is swirling around whether or not the team should re-sign Lamar Jackson in the offseason. And we're not even there yet. He's not even playing right now. Huntley should clear concussion protocol if he hasn't already. I don't believe he was on the last injury report that I looked at. And this team lost to Cleveland 13-3 last week, but we're looking to bounce back here. Prior to that game, the 3 games prior, they had lost at Jacksonville, beat the Broncos, won at Pittsburgh, all games decided by a combined 4 points, all coin flip games against struggling teams. Now this has since dropped to Baltimore -6, so a full point. It's really because Desmond Ridder seems, I think, capable of doing more. And Baltimore is really a hornet's nest of noise right now, if I had to guess. It just really seems to me like it's possible that things are not all well there in Baltimore land. Not that the Falcons are doing much better, but that seemed like an awful high line to start with. I should correct myself. Lamar hasn't been completely ruled out, but chances are he won't play. This team should be in the playoffs, though. And if they're fully functioning and healthy, they could win a game, but there's still some limitations here. There still needs to be some reconstruction with the roster if they are able to keep Lamar Jackson, which I'd be a fan of. As far as Christmas Eve is concerned, it could be a bit of a snoozer with a backup quarterback in there. But Desmond Ridder, maybe he'll get a chance to show a little bit, but another road game in his second start. Finally, moving to the afternoon, the 49ers are 10-4. They're hosting the Commanders, who are 7-6-1. This is on CBS. San Francisco by a touchdown with a 39.5-point over-under is where it stands right now. San Francisco has the number 1 defense as far as points allowed and yardage allowed. They've won 7 straight. Doesn't seem to matter who the quarterback is. Great coaching there. Brock Purdy is pretty good, though. Pretty good. 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, only took 1 sack, 17 for 26 passing in a road win against Seattle last week. The 12th man took the week off there. He did not look this good at Iowa State, which is just crazy to see him performing this well. Good coaching, good performers around him, and it's going to be tough for the Commanders, who are still in the playoff hunt, to win here on the road. 4:30 is the big one. Eagles are 13-1. They're heading to Dallas to play the boys, who are 10-4. A Fox game, of course. Dallas by 5 is the point spread right now. 46-point over-under. The Eagles won 26-17 against Cooper Rush a few months ago. They scored 20 points in the second quarter and a couple field goals in the fourth. That was all the points that the Eagles put up. They forced 3 turnovers from Rush and really gave him fits there. They have lost to Jacksonville in overtime last week. The Jags seem to be figuring things out at the right time there. Dallas struggled and lost to Jacksonville in overtime last week. The Jags seem to be figuring some things out there. They were sluggish against the Texans 2 weeks ago, but they can really do some damage here. It's whether or not they can beat an Eagles team even without Mr. Jalen Hurts in the lineup. They have a great backup here, Gardner Minshew. We'll get to see the mustache back in action again. Eagles seem to be constant and improving on the defensive end, and I'm not sure what the Cowboys are going to be able to do here. It's possible they can keep up, but it's unfortunate that these teams won't play with both starting quarterbacks at any point this season unless they encounter each other in the playoffs, but this is still going to be a big, important game, and Gardner Minshew, obviously, capable when put into the starting role, and this is the 4:30 Fox game. This is one of the big ones. So let's hit the last 2 games here as you're moving the elf on the shelf for the night, or wrapping presents for the last time, or whatever you're doing on Christmas Eve. You have an 8 o'clock bowl game and an 8:15 night game, of course. I shouldn't say of course because it's a Saturday, but at 8 o'clock, you have the Hawaii Bowl. Middle Tennessee is 7-5. San Diego State is 7-5. We have a little Conference USA Mountain West showdown here on ESPN. San Diego State's favored by a touchdown, and with a 49-point over-under, that's a little high. Middle Tennessee likes to score a lot of points, and San Diego State likes to score like no points and likes to hold you to also no points and kind of play the field position game, do a lot of punting, play conservative. Well, Middle Tennessee, if you remember, they put up a ton of points in Miami earlier in the year, beat the Hurricanes there. That really foreshadowed the difficulties that program would have in not even making a bowl game in Mario Cristobal's first year in his tenure there, and kind of the rebuilding process that team has been going through for the better part of 2 decades now. But anyways, this game, two very contrasting styles. I can't remember exactly where I had it in my bowl rankings, but I'm telling you right now, it's a little bit of an intriguing matchup just to see how these two teams are able to plan things out. Brady Hoke, of course, the head coach there at San Diego State, because I know you're all watching the Aztecs out there and know exactly where Brady Hoke is at. And Middle Tennessee, again, a capable offense. So keep an eye on this one at 8:15. The Raiders are 6-8. They're playing in Steelerville against Pittsburgh, also a 6-8 ball club. This is the NFL Network game. Pittsburgh is currently favored by a field goal, and it's now dropped to 2.5. The over-under was 39.5. It's dropped to 38.5. Snow. Lots of snow, lots of cold, and it's going to be a weird one. It's probably still too high because of that. Las Vegas sucks on the road. Pittsburgh sucks at home. Las Vegas is 1-4 of 5. Pitt's 1-4 of 6. I don't have much of a feel for this other than it might be tougher because of Las Vegas coming over and playing on the road. But two teams that aren't out of the playoff conversation yet. Of course, Mike Tomlin with the Steelers has never had a losing record there in all his time, but it's certainly heading that way right now. And I'm sure you'll see plenty of news snippets throughout the other NFL games throughout the day as you're watching about the status of the field there in Heinz Stadium. But that and the Hawaii Bowl are your two nightcap games. Those are what I'll be flipping back and forth between as I'm wrapping up my Christmas Eve. Christmas Day, which is typically the NBA day, we do have 5 games, and the NFL invades a bit, of course, with 3 games of their own, with it falling on a Sunday. We do have a few college basketball games, no college football, no bowl games. So starting at noon, the 76ers and the Knicks are playing on ABC and ESPN. One of the healthier games on the docket. This should be a good matchup. The Knicks recently had an 8-game win streak snapped by the Raptors, but things are starting to come around a little bit as far as the Knicks staying above 500. Julius Randle's looking a little bit better, 22.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. And looks like things are starting to look a little bit better for the Knicks. 76ers are obviously the top story here. Joel Embiid is leading the league in scoring at 32.5 points per game. He isn't getting a ton of MVP buzz right now, but he will start to if this team starts to pick up some wins. They're 18-12 right now. The Knicks are 18-14, and this team hasn't been, the 76ers haven't been healthy all year, but they will have Tyrese Maxey and James Harden, hopefully, if everything stays peachy the next couple days, and we'll get to see the full strength of this team that's suffered with some of its bench signees brought in the offseason having issues, but this team is moving towards healthiness and completeness, and this should be a good ball game. The Sixers should be favored. Obviously, we don't have a line yet with games not being completed at the time of this recording. At 1 o'clock, we'll get our first NFL game. The Packers are 6-8. They will not be playing in a blizzard. They'll be heading to Miami to play the Dolphins, who are 8-6 on Fox. The Dolphins are a 4-point favorite with almost a 50-point over-under. It's 49.5 right now. This is a team that is been suffering a little bit recently, but still hoping, still should be in the playoffs, quite frankly, but in a little bit of a tussle there with the Jets and the Patriots behind the Buffalo Bills. The Packers are struggling mightily here. This team's just not going to be in the playoffs. They're not officially eliminated yet, but they're damn close here. Aaron Rodgers, you have to kind of question what's his future going to look like. Is he going to stay in Green Bay? This has been a contentious relationship for a couple seasons now, and with things not looking so great, is a couple receivers finally being added going to make the difference in the offseason? That's been a problem for a while. Just what the hell is going to happen here with the Green Bay Packers? At least they're playing in warm country, and it should be an entertaining ball game. At 1:30 and going throughout the rest of the day, flipping between ESPN2 and ESPNU will be the continuation of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. There we go. Got it all out this time. That's 1:30, 3:30, 6:30, 8:30 are the scheduled time slots. But as they rearrange the pairs there between George Washington, Hawaii, Ionia, Pepperdine, Seattle, SMU, Utah State, and Washington State, this will be, I believe, the conclusion of the tournament here on Christmas Day, heading from early afternoon all the way into evening. So keep an eye on those games if you have interest in college basketball. I believe the better squads will be playing in that 8:30 slate. I think it'd ideally be Utah State and Washington State, but just worth noting there for college basketball. At 2:30, we are back in the NBA. Lakers and Mavericks, a couple of teams struggling mightily here. The Lakers are 13-17 at the moment. Mavericks 15-16. That could be changing, of course, between the time you hear this and the time Christmas Day the game is played. Max Keebler is out for the Mavs, and they have a whole slew of injuries there. Anthony Davis is out for the Lakers. It'll be billed as the Luka versus LeBron game. The old guard still handing off to the new, although there's, of course, a slew of great talents in the NBA right now. The Lakers are possibly going to get buried at the bottom of the West, still trying to figure things out. Anthony Davis was just coming along and really playing at a high level. Westbrook was finally coming off the bench and being productive in the running for 6th man of the year. He will obviously still be a participant in this game at this point. The Mavs play at one of the slowest paces, or the slowest pace, I believe, in the entire NBA, and I can't really believe that Mark Cuban, one of the most known owners in the entire sport and outspoken guys as a fan, has not been able to put better pieces around him in order to make him more successful. Porzingis obviously flamed out a couple years back due to a number of injury issues, and really his skill level seems to have fallen off quite a bit, although he's doing okay with the Washington Wizards right now. Jalen Brunson was looking good, and he decided to go to the New York Knicks, who were obviously playing in the earlier time slot, so they lost that talent, and it's just been a struggle bus here, and you have to wonder if Luka's going to start looking elsewhere should he want to win a title. His time's kind of being wasted here in Maverick City, but this should still be a competitive game with 2 stars on the court at least. It's just not at full power here, unfortunately. At 4:30, we have a real stinker. Broncos and Rams, 4-10 teams on CBS and on Nickelodeon. Denver's favored by 2.5 with a 36.5 point over-under. Just a horrid game. These are basically 2 of the 5 teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs already. It's appropriate that slime will be shot out of the end zone when teams score here on the Nickelodeon broadcast. So don't forget, this is the one game a year, I believe, that'll be on that station. At 4:30 as well, we go to college basketball again, and separate from that tournament, DePaul is 6-6, and they're playing at Creighton, who is 6-6 as well. This is on Fox. DePaul is DePauling, but Creighton was ranked in the top 10 at one point earlier in the season. They've had a horrible skid, losing several games in a row. They have a lot of talent on this particular team. Some of these guys will be going pro, but they've just a rough skid here. Otherwise, this would be arguably a top 10 team playing a much lower competition DePaul team. But right now, a couple 6-6ers. Keep an eye on this, kind of in that slot where it is here. If some of these other games flame out, Lakers Mavs will be winding down. Broncos Rams might be garbage. And we've got another game here with Bucks Celtics at 5 o'clock. But DePaul Creighton could be a low-key, decent watch if everything else is kind of going to crap in that time slot. So Bucks and Celtics, I think this is going to be the top game on the slate on ABC, ESPN, 5 o'clock. Giannis and Jason Tatum will obviously take center stage. Tatum has just exploded into his role here, particularly this year after the finals run last season. Over 30 points per game, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Giannis, 31 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. Don't know if Middleton will be able to go in this one. The Celtics have lost a few games now after the hot start, but they are 22-10, 11-5 at home. The Bucks are 22-9, 8-6 away. Giannis again had a 45-point game the other night in a loss to the Cavs, but just a really great pair of teams here. Teams that could be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, might be the 2 best teams in the NBA right now. So this is the marquee game right around dinner time there, depending on how your meals are staggered on Christmas. I know we kind of do a breakfast and a brunch and a little bit different meal set there at early dinner. So this will be something that I try to have on in the background for my family festivities. But Bucks and Celtics, out of all the games, all the different sports, will be the number one thing that I am keeping an eye on. So now we skip ahead here to your evening hours at 8 o'clock. Of course, we have that other tournament going on at all the different time slots there. But at 8 o'clock is our next main startup, the Grizzlies and the Warriors. The Grizz are 19-10 right now. The Warriors 15-16. No Steph Curry. That's a problem. This team's going to be struggling without him in the starting lineup, and that's not what was ideal when putting them on the Christmas slate. The Warriors were crushed by Brooklyn earlier in the week. You could realistically have both the Lakers and the Warriors kind of in free fall to the bottom of the West after these Christmas games, unfortunately. But they are here. They are hosting. They're going to be ready to play. Steve Kerr will obviously have them ready to play against a Grizzlies team, which has been known to occasionally give up some games that they shouldn't. But they, as in the Grizz, are going to be finals contenders as well if the Warriors are able to get back there. So keep an eye on this one. It could get a little out of hand, but the Grizzlies are on the road, and this could be very, very dangerous. 8:20 will be the Buccaneers at 6-8 on the road to play the Cardinals at 4-10 on NBC. Now, this triple header of NFL games is really brutal, and it's highlighted by the nightcap here. Tampa Bay 6.5-point favorites, 41-point over/under, and it has dropped to 40.5 now. The spread has moved another point in Tampa Bay's way to 7.5. The Bucs are expected to roll here. Colt McCoy, who was a solid quarterback, not so much in his game time last week before he was knocked out, but could have been a solid quarterback if he was playing. However, they're on number 3, QB3, with Trace McSorley, who was literally an iffy starter at Penn State as far as helping them reach their potential. He did set a number of records there, don't get me wrong. But if you were looking at the top Penn State quarterbacks in recent history, you would trade any of them on any given year for about 20 other guys. So great record holder at Penn State. All things considered, not a great college quarterback. He's still hanging on to an NFL job here somehow, and it could be very brutal against a Buck team that is not very good either. Not very good either, and favored to win their division. So this could be an ugly, ugly nightcap. Grizzlies Warriors is the place to be, or maybe the Diamond Head nightcap there with hopefully Utah State and Washington State, or another very good college basketball team. So you'll have options in the 8-8:30 range. They just might be kind of rough. 10:30. We do have one final game on the slate. The Suns are 19-12 at the Nuggets, who are 12-11 at the moment. ABC, ESPN. The second best NBA game on the slate. It might be the second best game period on the slate. Jokic could win MVP again. He's putting up monster numbers. Again, there are about half a dozen guys in this MVP discussion for the NBA right now. Lots of great talent in the league. The Booker, again, will hopefully be healthy for the Suns. We'll see. Number of players are out, but Chris Paul is back in, who missed time earlier. Should be very competitive there, playing on the road in Denver. Jokic, at least we got a few of the high-powered guys here, right? Jokic, a chance at seeing Devin Booker. LeBron will be playing. Luka will be playing. Ja Morant should be playing. Jaren Jackson Jr., at least win Defensive Player of the Year, possibly. Jason Tatum. So you will see a number of players that are big, even if we don't get all the marquee names on the banner necessarily. So that'll wrap up your Christmas Day. So touching on the Monday after, the 26th, for those that are fortunate to have it off, recognized as part of the holiday. It's a very light schedule. At 2:30 in the afternoon, you have to wait till 2:30 in the afternoon. You do have the Quick Lane Bowl. New Mexico State, who is 6-6, got there thanks to Jerry Kill. Of course, left Minnesota years back due to a heart condition, but he's back coaching again. They're playing Bowling Green, who's also 6-6 out of the MAC. Not such a great team on either side here. This is on ESPN. Bowling Green's favored by 3.5 with a 47.5-point over/under at the moment. Not a great matchup here, but that is a bowl game happening on your TV should you choose to watch it. There are 7 NBA games on the slate, including an NBA TV doubleheader. The Nets and the Cavaliers will be playing. The Cavs looking very good right now, very strong. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, just a Kevin Love, Jared Allen, just a great team right now. Again, beat the Bucks the other night, despite a strong game from Giannis and just a very good ball club there. Playing the Nets, this will be a big game on Monday at 7 o'clock. And at 8:15, Chargers at 8-6 will be playing at the Colts, who are 4-9-1 on ESPN. The Chargers are favored by 4. It's just moved to 4.5. The over-under has dropped as well from 46.5 to 45.5. I don't know how you bet on the Colts after the disaster last week. Of course, they managed to beat the Raiders after Jeff Saturday's first day on the job, basically. The Chargers have won 3 of 4 at this point. They finish at the Colts, home against the Rams, and at the Broncos. So they're lined up for 3 wins, possibly, in a playoff spot. They're getting healthier. It's in a dome, thank God. So we won't have as much snow here. Not that those aren't exciting, but things tend to go a little bit more according to plan in that particular case. The Colts, meanwhile, are playing musical quarterback and looking to be put down, quite frankly, be put out of their misery. The Chargers will look to do that on Monday night. At 10 o'clock, the back end, a lot of the NBA games are in the 7:30 slot. Some of the other matchups on NBA League Pass or regional networks will be Clippers, Pistons, Rockets, Bulls, Pacers, Pelicans is one of the better ones. Jazz, Spurs, Timberwolves, Heats should be a decent matchup. But there's one more late night, and that's on the NBA TV, the back end of that doubleheader, and that is the 8-24 Hornets playing in Portland against the Trail Blazers, who are 17-15, a team looking to, of course, make the playoffs this year, play in certainly, and looking to be in good position for that, especially with teams around them struggling, as we discussed earlier. So that is your lineup. I thank you as always for tuning in. I haven't decided if I'm putting out another episode yet between Christmas and New Year's with a bunch of things that I have going on. I'm certainly catching up on things with the week vacation I took, although I was checking box scores and observing everything that was going on in the NBA, college basketball, stuff like that, signing day, everything crazy. But I'm going to kind of regroup and might not release another podcast until after New Year's. But I appreciate it. Happy Dreidel Day. Happy Jingle Bells, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year's, Happy everything. I appreciate it, and I'll chat with you later. Thank you.
Don't forget the money, man.
All my blessings, 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 all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny. Daily counting every single one, I'm seeing plenty. Level up and watch that beat turn into a